All right, let's dive into one of the most elegant concepts in all of biology, tissues. This is the absolute genius behind how life goes from a single simple cell to the incredibly complex creatures we see all around us, including ourselves. It's the blueprint for building a body.
So just stop and think about that for a second. Your body is made of trillions of cells. Trillions. How on earth do they all coordinate? How do they work together to do everything from breathing to thinking without descending into just utter chaos? It seems like an impossible management problem, right? Well, nature has a solution, and it's all about teamwork. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at that core idea of teamwork. Then, we'll explore why plants and animals are built so differently. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the plant and animal toolkits. And finally, we'll zoom all the way out to see how this all comes together to make a living, breathing organism.
Okay, so the big secret, the fundamental principle behind all complex life is something we're already familiar with: division of labor. Instead of one cell trying to be a jack of all trades, groups of cells get really good at doing just one thing. They specialize. And that specialized team of cells, that's what we call a tissue. It's a group of cells that have a similar structure and, most importantly, work together to pull off one specific job. Think about it, all your muscle cells contracting in perfect unison, or the phloem tissue in a plant that's basically a dedicated food delivery highway. It's all about efficiency through teamwork. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A plant and an animal lead totally different lives, right? One is stuck in the ground and the other is running around. That single fundamental difference means they evolved completely different sets of tissues, two very different toolkits for survival. And you can see that split right here. Plants are stationary, so a lot of their tissues are all about support and structure. In fact, many of them, like wood, are made of dead cells. They just don't need as much energy. Animals, on the other hand, are constantly on the move, hunting and escaping. That requires a huge amount of energy, so almost all their tissues are made of living, metabolically active cells. It even affects how they grow. Plants grow from specific spots, while our growth is more spread out. So let's drill down into the plant world first. You can pretty much sort all plant tissues into two big buckets based on the answer to one simple question. Are the cells still growing and dividing, or have they already picked a career and settled down? And here are those two buckets. You've got meristematic tissue, which is like the plant's permanent construction zone. These are the cells that are actively dividing and creating growth. Then you have permanent tissue. These cells are done dividing. They've matured, taken on a specific job like transport or storage, and that's what they'll do for the rest of their lives.
And these growth zones are strategically placed. The apical meristems are at the very tips of the roots and shoots, pushing them longer and deeper. The lateral meristems are on the sides, making the stem or trunk thicker every year. And intercalary ones are at the base of leaves or nodes, helping things grow in the middle. It's a brilliant system for expanding in every direction.
Now, once those new cells mature, they become specialists. The simplest ones are made of just one cell type. You've got tissues for storing food, tissues that give the plant flexibility so it can bend in the wind without snapping, and then you have tissues that are all about pure, brute strength and hardness. And here is a fantastic example you've definitely seen before. You know that super tough, fibrous husk on a coconut? That is sclerenchyma tissue. It's literally designed to be as hard and protective as possible. It's the plant's natural armor. But some jobs are too big for one cell type. That's where complex tissues come in. These are teams of different cells all working together to form the plant's plumbing system. You have the xylem, which is a one-way pipe bringing water up from the roots, and the phloem, which is a two-way system for distributing the sugary food made in the leaves to the rest of the plant. Okay, let's switch gears and jump over to the animal kingdom. We have our own amazing toolkit, and it can be broken down into four major functional groups: the tissues that protect us, the ones that connect everything, the ones that move us, and the ones that send all the messages. And there they are. Epithelial tissue is our armor and lining. Connective tissue is the scaffolding and glue that holds us together. Muscular tissue is our engine, and nervous tissue is our body's super fast internet. Let's take a quick look at each one. First up, the protectors. Epithelial tissue is all about forming barriers. The cells are packed together super tightly, creating a continuous sheet. It's the skin on the outside of your body, but it's also the lining of your mouth, your digestive tract, and your blood vessels. It carefully controls everything that goes in or out. Next, the connectors. The really unique thing about all connective tissue is that the cells aren't packed together. Instead, they're scattered inside something called a matrix. And this is where the magic happens, because that matrix can be almost anything. It can be a liquid, like the plasma in your blood. It can be a hard, rigid solid, like in your bones. Or it can be a flexible, jelly-like substance, like the cartilage in your nose and ears. So versatile. And now, the movers. We have 3 types of muscle. There's striated muscle, which is attached to your bones. This is the stuff you control consciously, like when you decide to pick up a book. Then there's smooth muscle, which works behind the scenes involuntarily in your stomach or blood vessels. And finally, there's the incredible cardiac muscle, found only in the heart, which beats involuntarily every second of your life.
Last but not least, the messengers. A nerve cell, a neuron, is built for speed. A signal comes in through its little branches, gets converted into an electrical impulse that zips down that long tail, and bam! At the very end, the message is passed on to the next cell in line, whether it's another nerve or muscle fiber. It's an incredibly fast, precise communication network. So, we've looked at all the individual parts, all the specialized building materials for both plants and animals. Now, let's just take one step back and see how these parts assemble into the finished product. A complete, functioning organism. And this is really the whole story right here. Tissues are that absolutely critical link in the chain of life. You start with individual, specialized cells. Those cells team up to form tissues. Different tissues then work together to create an organ, like the stomach or a leaf. Those organs then form systems, like the digestive system. And finally, all of those systems working together create the organism, the whole shebang. So in the end, tissues are nature's answer to the problem of complexity. It's how you build something magnificent from trillions of tiny parts. Which kind of makes you think, doesn't it? If nature can build everything from a giant sequoia to a blue whale using this principle of specialized teams, what amazing problems could we solve if we got just as good at organizing our own?